Lynn. I am your adulting coach, and I help autistic young adults systemize adulting with their families together. Today's struggle is from a mom at the 13 adults. Oh, sorry, I can't remember the actual name. Hold on. I'll find it. Give me a second. Parents of young adults 13 plus with autism. And this mom is struggling with her daughter, who is 15 years old, and she gets angry when she is reminded to get some things done. So, and that gets things get angry. So here's her thinking: my 15-year-old daughter gets, oops, I see I have a typo there. My 15-year-old daughter gets angry when I remind her to do things. I don't want to remind her, she says, to do almost everything. But if I don't, she doesn't get those things done. All she wants to do is be on her phone or her tablet all day, every day. I've asked her what she thinks might help, but I can't get anything from her. So let's look at, again, using Barb Avila's format of understanding, connecting, and then figuring out the practice that she outlines in her book, Seeing Autism. Let's use this process. First, what is going on? The thing we need to remember and notice is that screen use does release dopamine in the brain, which can negatively affect impulse control. In other words, you're getting so much pleasure from what you're doing, you don't want to change. You don't want to do something different. So that is what's happening with our autistic young adult, is that they're just having so much fun on their pads or their phones that they don't want to stop. And when we ask them to stop, it's going to make them angry. It makes perfect sense that it's going to make them angry. So what else do we need to keep in mind? And one thing I did want to mention today is some of the typical concerns of a person with autism. And I just wanted to add that, hopefully I can find it quickly, is what autistic people need. And let me see if I'm pretty sure it's going to be here, please. Is it going to be there? All right, no, it's not, but I can do this. All right, I can do this with you. One of the things that my daughter's therapist, who is very well, who has an excellent practice working with people on the spectrum, suggests is that our autistic people, the people we love, need they really need predictability in their lives. So sometimes that might be the reason why she's going to her iPad or her phone all the time, because she knows she's going to get a predictable hit of dopamine from there. So having that predictability is really helpful. Another thing that he suggests that our autistic young adults need is they need to be efficient. In other words, they don't want to waste their time. They want to make sure that they are using their energy as efficiently as possible. And that makes perfect sense when we look at the motivational triad anyway, because our limbic system, our primitive brain, is always going to be asking us to be safe. That's that predictability that keeps that safety factor up. To be efficient, meaning that we're conserving our resources, so we're not throwing our energy away. And then the third thing is with the motivational triad. Actually, I can bring that up really quickly as well. Is that motivational triad? I just think it's so helpful. And then the third thing is that we want, let me just make that bigger for you. Oops, I think I can do that here. Nope, hold on 1 second. I can't figure out how to make that bigger. Oh, I know what I have to do. Hold on 1 second. Show main panel. There we go. There. Okay. So this is the motivational triad, and this is what's going on with all of us humans. We want to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. And it's in particular when we have an autistic mind, which tends to be, with most cases when you have autism, tends to be hypervigilant. It's looking out for, what's going on in the environment and protecting itself all the time. That's just the way that the autistic brain works. So that's what is happening with her daughter, is that she's always, she's angry because she just wants to reject anything that doesn't keep her safe. So when we're looking at that, she's wanting to conserve energy, she's wanting to avoid pain, staying safe, keeping things predictable, and she's wanting to get that pleasure from the iPad and the iPhone. It makes perfect sense to me that that's what she's needing. So let's go back up here. Let me just put this in the right place so that I can go forward with you there. So just understand that they want a predictability, they want efficiency, and actually they don't just want it, they really need predictability and efficiency, and they want to be they need specificity of language. So that's really important to our autistic young adults too. Now, if we tell them, we need you to do something else other than be on your iPad, that's not specific enough for them. It doesn't give them their brain the information they need to make a switch. So we need to just get more specific in the language. And there are several other things that I'd love to explain to you if you join me in the Art of Adulting. We can really look at what it is that is the focus of somebody, the needs of someone who is on the autism spectrum. One other thought is that they need a thinking partner that they can trust. They need that. They need somebody to hear their thoughts, and they need them to be somebody that can help them sort through their thinking. Very important for an autistic person, because sometimes the confusion from the way that they're thinking is hard for them to sort out on their own. It makes perfect sense. So let's connect with ourselves and with them as our second step in this process. So here's her thinking. My daughter, I've tried, she won't talk to me, she just won't meet the expectations that I have for her. And I'm sad and I'm frustrated, and I'm probably thinking of the worst case scenario if she continues to act like this. And so it gets me, into kind of a spin. I do look to others for help. I do tend to spin on the negativity and worry. But the result is I keep trying. And then here's the trouble with I keep trying, is that it's a one-sided effort. We need to recruit her energy into this, into solving this problem, because we cannot solve it on our own. We need to solve it with her. So here's the young adult. My life, I don't want to change. So she resists any suggestion that's made by anybody. She follows her accustomed pattern and nothing changes. And we need to understand with compassion that that's where she is. I know you love your daughter down to her toenails. I'm sure you've done everything that you know to do. The trick is, how do we get her? The thing we've got to figure out is, how do we get her to solve this problem with you? Because she's now entering young adulthood. She's starting to think on her own. She's not doing what we're telling her to do just because we said so. We need to get our young adult in the process of solving for these problems. So what do I suggest? The first thing is that we practice proactive partnering. And this is what we need to do for sure, is we need to stop telling and start listening. And we talk in a didactic, in a declarative way. Instead of asking a lot of questions of our autistic young adults, which can tend to put them into that fight, flight, or freeze mode. And we don't want them to get there, because their wise brain has gone offline and their primitive brain is now running the show. So we want them to understand that we hear them, to know that we see them, that we care about, they're safe with us, and that they can move forward with us to help them solve their problems. And the best way that I know how to do that is to reflectively listen using declarative statements. It sounds like you're upset because I'm asking you to get off the iPad. It's just a short reflection of what's really going on. I'm seeing a lot of resistance to change. Whatever it is, make it a declarative sentence so that they can then think, okay, let's turn that wise brain on. Is that what's happening in my life? I'm resisting change. It's a very good question that they can ask themselves. So this is part of the many skills that we teach inside the art of adulting for both the parents and the young adult. The idea is that the parents learn the skills first so that they themselves feel better, and then they become the coach that their autistic young adult needs. That's the second part of the process. So of course I'm going to recommend from Ross Green the collaborative, proactive problem solving process that he advocates at his site, livesinthebalance.org. First, we start out with just the situation. What are the facts of the situation? You are spending 8 hours a day on your phone or on your iPad. Start with just that. See if we can get agreement on the facts. Okay, it's not 8 hours, it's 6 hours. What is it? You tell me, how many hours a day do you think you spend? What are the hours? Is it, okay, let's try 6 hours. Okay, that's not right. Okay, let's try 5 hours. Let's agree on the hours that you're spending on the iPad. Let's start with that. And notice I corrected myself. I was doing the questioning. It's a habit that's hard to break. I've got to get to the declarative statement so that I don't take my autistic young adult into that fight, flight, or freeze mode where they're not thinking so well. So the next step after we really have stated and agreed on the situation, we really go to the empathy step and we listen. And when we ask that question, what are their thoughts and feelings about that situation? One of the best practices that we can use to slow down our thinking so it just doesn't turn into one of those spin cycles like on the washing machine where you can't tell one piece of the clothes from the other because the thoughts you can't tell one from the other, is to make the conversation visible. So you grab a piece of paper, you grab a pencil, and you start writing down. I mean, it does really, literally, it can just be a tiny piece of paper so it's not intimidating, but you're just saying, okay, I hear you. You're saying this is what you're saying. And then this is what you're saying. And of course, if you're side by side, that's even better because then, you're just noting what you're hearing coming out of their mouth. That's going to help them feel heard. And the visibility of their thoughts is going to help in two ways because you're engaging both the hearing sense and the auditory and the visual. And using more than one sense in any learning opportunity is the best thing to do. And if you can do this over and over and over again on a regular basis with your young adult, I'm hoping that they'll start to see some of the patterns in their thinking. And that's really important that we notice, these are kind of habitual patterns because those are the ones that are given to us by our primitive brain that wants to keep us safe, conserving energy and seeking pleasure. It's just, the brain loves to think the same thoughts over and over again. But by making the conversation visual, it's going to help her feel heard. And that's our role now that we have autistic young adults. We don't have, autistic elementary school kids. Our role is really to encourage them, to warn if we see anything on the horizon that they ought to know about, and to be consulted by them. So we're switching our hat from being the dictatorial, you will meet my expectations and the school's expectations, to having them create the expectations for themselves, this is why young adulthood, moving from teenager to young adulthood, is such a challenging time, especially for autistic young adults, because we have to get because they have to define what they want for themselves and get their thinking arranged around that. And with the brains they have that go to that fight, flight, or freeze so quickly, sometimes it can take longer to make that happen. No worries. We got plenty of time. Most of us are going to live past 90 anyway. So we don't have to hit some magical deadline of 18 or 21 or whatever it is that everybody else thinks. So if we can just slow their thinking down and we listen, that's how we help them do that. We listen, and we scribe it. And then what are your thoughts and feelings? This is where the process gets more balanced, because they can't just act like a toddler anymore who's just going to throw a temper tantrum to get what they want. They have to now be patient enough to hear what you're thinking as well. And the way that you make that happen is you just listen. More than 9 times out of 10, you're listening to them. And 1 time out of 10, you're telling them what your thoughts are. Then you go back to the 9 again. I mean, it's really unbalanced at this point in time, but that's what it's going to take to help them over the bridge from being an emotional child to an emotional adult, is plenty of patience and plenty of time on this particular task, and helping them to slow down their thinking, to notice the patterns and what their thinking is creating in their lives. And that's what we teach in the art of adulting. I call it the Imap Method. We identify what are the virtues, the values that we want to operate from. We create our mindset by noticing our thought patterns and which are the ones that work best for us. We define our actions in each of the 10 domains in our life, so we know what we expect of ourselves, and we practice the people skills that we need in order to get the support, the right support at the right time. And so we first practice this with our own lives, and then after we've got the practice down, now we become the coach that we need to be for our autistic young adults, keeping in mind all of the things that we need to understand, because their brains are wired the way that they're wired. So the other place I recommend to anyone who is, as a resource to anyone who's struggling with executive function skills with their autistic young adults, is to come to the Executive Function Online Summit. This is the only one that I talk about. There are many summits out there. This is the one that I have found to be the most useful to me, and it's going to be in the summer. It's not free. So if you can find the Executive Function Online Summit, you'll find it online. I'll link to it in the notes. Is a place where you can sign up for those experts that are really going to help you figure out how to go forward. Because this is a process. This challenge is not going to go away. It's going to be around for the next decade at least. And so, in my case, it's been more than a decade, a couple decades with my autistic young adults, where they need me to be the coach that works with them, that they can consult. And I need to practice this stuff anyway, because it helps me make sure that I'm getting out of life what I really want to get out of life. So come join us at this Executive Function Online Summit, and please come join me at the Art of Adulting. Just find my website, follow the prompts, and download my freebies, and see how the Art of Adulting can really help you and your autistic young adult find peace by systemizing adulting together. Bye for now.